All right, so you just got a ZV-E1 and you need it set up quick so you can use it for your Facebook videos, for your YouTube, for your kitten videos. Bruh. And before getting started, I just want to say that ZV-E1 is extremely easy to use. It is robust and it is very intuitive as soon as the controls are all set up. Smartphone connection will be done in another video, so hit do not connect and move on. Okay. And we're gonna set the time. Okay, I am in California. Okay, and the date is it is May. When shooting from a tripod, instead of shooting while holding the device, auto power off temp to high to extend recording time. Set that now. Temperature of the device may rise to prioritize recording time. Would you like to change the setting? Okay. Performance pixel mapping optimizes the image sensor. Cancel. Swiping left to right and up and down will bring up the menus. We're going to break down the controls into two tiers. These sides are not adjustable. They are fixed. And the FN menu and the controls, they are adjustable. So use the chapters in this video. I'm going to go from the top to the bottom, so it'll make more sense that way, and it'll be easier just to search things that way. We'll do the menu. And in this menu right here, you'll need to know a few things because you don't want to duplicate these. These you cannot change, these settings right here. And there's two menus, and there's one that's, there's a couple of important ones. First one is this one, the format. Usually you add it to a system menu, and instead it's right here. So you don't have to duplicate yourself. And this one right here, file settings, and we're going to change that right off the bat. File name, we're going to change that to title and date, settings, and this we're going to change it to ZV. And if this is your A cam or B cam, you could just change it. Okay, so the naming format is ZVA and then year, month, date. So that way you can have it sorted by name, not necessarily by date, because if you're shooting from multiple cameras, sorting it by date, you won't have it sorted by the camera name, if that makes any sense. Moving on. All right, now we're on the red recording menu. File format, you want to change this to 4K, of course. And let's just stick with 4K 24 for now. And 10 bits already set. Moving on, S&Q settings. Now, S&Q settings. There's two S&Q modes. It's more that it's already lumped together with time lapses and slow and quick. We don't really need a slow because that is the high frame rate regular standard shooting. So we're only going to focus on time-lapse settings, and we're going to skip S&Q settings altogether. Time-lapse settings, it has a pretty good one already from what I remember, 60p, 1 second. So that means that it's going to record, the final playback is going to be 60p. Shooting required for 5 seconds is 5 minutes. So it's a time-lapse, okay? Moving on, log shoot setting. We're just going to leave this to off, and I'll show you why in a second. And proxies, nope, lens compensation. So this is breathing comp, vignette control, chromatic aberration. Just leave it as it is. Media, we'll pass that. Okay, shooting mode, nope. Silent. Okay, silent shutter. Okay, silent mode. This camera, it makes a fake sound. So when you take a photo, see that? It makes a fake sound. So you can turn that off right there. Let's get back to the menu. Release without lens, that's fine. So a lot of these settings, they're good right off the bat. You don't have to change them. One item you want to turn off is wind noise reduction because it can do funky stuff with your audio and you want full control. Moving on, let's go to this image zoom. Okay, so the zoom range, clear image zoom is already done. Step, okay, zoom level, okay, lever speed. This is what you need to change. 3 is too slow, as you're seeing right here. You see, this is too slow. We're not even recording, so why would you ever want it that slow? You change this right away. Standby to 8. And you know what, you're going to change both of them to 8. And the reason why, okay, it seems too fast, right? In practice, you want this thing to move quickly, but this may be too fast for you. So if you have one of the lenses, this is pressure sensitive. The lens itself, it has a toggle. See, I'm moving it really slow now because it's pressure sensitive. But if I move it back to the toggle, it's back to quick. So that's why you want 8.8. Moving on, custom Z's. Okay, so this is the zoom speed if you use the custom button, but this camera has like no buttons to use. Just use the toggle, keep it simple. Remote zoom speed is self-explanatory. This is for the remote control, the RMT-B1T. Okay, so moving on. Shooting display, I like grid lines. I'm turning it on. Okay, so here we go. And diagonal and square grid. The reason I have it on is because I don't have to use the level. I could just use grid lines and to level. And emphasize recording display. Okay, that's the red record frame. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so this next one is the ISO. I am going to change this, and the reason why, okay, I have to get out of intelligent auto, so here we go, touch that. And I'll just go to aperture priority. Because this is a full frame camera, you should know how to use this. Okay, so let's go back to the ISO, and I like Cine EI of the FX3, FX30. So if you want to get your own version of Cine EI, okay, you change the range limit. And this is a poor man's hack, you know, because this is not, there's no official Cine EI in this. The second gain is 12.8, so that's where you want to be here. And so you just want to switch between 640 and 12.8. And so if you make that range, that's what Cine EI is. So you could just switch fast. Check this out. So if I'm going to go out of this, I'm in 640, for instance, okay? Let's say I'm log shooting. I'm at 640. To change it to 1280, I just click on here and swipe this direction, 12,800, okay? And going back, swipe the opposite direction. So that's the quickest way. Okay, moving on. Exposure comp. We're not going to mess with this, any of this stuff, okay? Because it's all good. Except for tone. Actually, here, we're going to use manage LUTs, okay? I have a LUT on here, and we're going to select it, import it. Here we go. I have a neutral LUT. Okay, so it's a S-Log3 LUT. Okay, so there's something important right here. Okay, so I'm going to manage this LUT. And now that I've imported it, you have to do a change. I know that there's an AE offset on this particular LUT in that it tends to underexpose. So I'm going to overexpose it to the correct amount, which would be, this is kind of hard to understand, but for this LUT, it's almost 2 stops. 2 would be 2, right? But it's a third under, so it's 1 2/3. So here, 5/3 EV. So what that means is that I set that, and when I am at 0 right here, that means it's already exposed. Granted, I'm not using it right now, so let me just switch to a picture profile. Here we go. Okay, so it's good already, and I'm just underexposed because this thing is blinking right here. So I will just jump to 12.8. There we go. Cine EI in practice. Moving back to this. All right, soft skin effect. Jeez, let's turn that off. Okay. Zebras, I don't really have to use it. However, if you want to use it, I suggest in the FN menu, and I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so AF/MF. Okay, right off the bat, this thing comes super fast and responsive, so it's kind of twitchy. I like to lower this just a bit. So I'll do 5 and 3. Because it's too twitchy, okay? focus area. Okay, so focus assistant and focus map. I don't really use it because it doesn't work in clear image zoom. And initial focus, you want to change this to force. Okay, so we'll see this in a minute. We'll go to display, peaking. Actually, I'll just put that in the custom menu later, the FN menu. Playback, we're not going to mess with any of these because it's not super important. There's another video to connect to smartphone. Okay, and we should be closing in by now. So let's do the custom menu. Okay, and we'll go to the custom key because it's first, and this one, step zoom. So this one is just, it switches you to clear image zoom, but I don't want to do that. I just want, because of this button, it's a like a magnification button. I want it to magnify. Focus assistant, magnifier. So these items are going to be turned off. Product showcase, focus standard, self timer, ISO, exposure comp. Since all of these slots are free, you can do whatever you choose, and they're not duplicated. They're already on your FN. They're already on your quick menu. So that's the reason why these were turned off earlier. And I'm only going to change the trash can. And for my purpose, I'm only going to use monitor brightness. Okay, so I'm not duplicating, and because I'm treating this camera much like an RX camera because it is so limited. So if I'm hitting that left button, nothing happens. Down, right, only the trash can is going to bring up, the monitor brightness to sunny weather, or just manually done like that. Remember the goal here, fixed versus adjustable. The fixed ones are not going away. However, they are extremely good. Shutter, aperture, exposure comp, ISO, white balance. Okay, so all the other buttons I'm going to keep as is because Sony got a lot of this right off the bat. And there's not a lot that you want to change. Okay, so this other one that you want to change is the defocus button. Background defocus, because you bought a full frame camera, you should know how to use it somewhat. And you don't need background defocus, that's aperture priority, okay? So I'm changing this to AE because just because you're using this as a vlog camera, okay? So when you just have to lock AE, you have to lock ISO, you have to lock white balance a lot of the time, and because you're gonna have B-roll too. Nobody wants to see your face all day. I'm sorry, not sorry, okay? Moving on. So now we are at that custom key dial is done because this camera doesn't have a lot of custom, but the FN menus, okay? So the FN menus, there are some things that need to be changed, and I'm going to be deleting some of these. And if you haven't noticed, I've been deleting all of the function menu for the video. That's because whatever you change here, it gets inherited for the photos, because this is mainly a video cam first, photo second. So I don't have to duplicate it, do it too often. And I think that is it. Take note of all these free slots to be used to customize your own camera. And I believe the last setting I have to do is record with shutter. Turn this on. I don't see why it would be turned off. Okay, so my dials, I'm not going to go over any of these because you're limited with buttons. You can't even use that my dial properly. Okay, display, yada yada. There's nothing needed here. Power, save, start time. Do not set this to a minute. I mean, I like to set it to 5 because if you're working with video and you just leave it on the tripod, you don't want it to turn off every minute. That's a hassle. And volume settings, skip, external output, skip. And that is it. There isn't a single item that I added to my menu. And the reason why I did that is just to keep things simple. So you're only going to be using this main panel to do everything because you've already got your LUT loaded. And there's some things in here that you could control that's not available in this other menu, this FN menu. Like for instance, you want to change the recording to intro recording. Okay, so you can do that. If you want to change your bit depth, bit recording setting, there it is. It's all in this area already. You don't have to go beyond that. Okay, so it's, if you want to format your card, it's right here. So this menu, this page, that's all you need. You don't need to go any further. And what's so good about the ZV-E1 is that it has your basics covered like a mofo. I mean, it's all on your screen. So if you're shooting manual or aperture, and let's just set to manual, okay? You've got auto white balance down here, okay? And you can change this to whatever white balance you want, and that's good. Your ISO, your exposure compensation, well, okay, this only works when you're in ISO auto. Okay, now I'm in ISO auto. Exposure compensation, your aperture, your shutter. So going back to why I deleted this stuff, there was soft skin effect, mode, object recognition. It's because it's already here and I don't want to duplicate all of these items right here. So this object recognition is right here, right? And you don't really need to turn this off because if you need to turn it off, well, here it is, product showcase. You click on product showcase, it works with stabilization. Look, we're still on active stabilization right here. So you want product showcase off, you just tap on it once. It's not a multi-click type of deal. And here's the audio. There you go, front, all directions, rear, auto. So you don't have to, and you don't want to be wasting space because you're limited with buttons. So you want to preserve as much slots as you can. So I'm going to be putting in mine right now. Just give me a second. All right, so here it is. So what I revised is the top level. I put priority set in auto white balance. So if I'm shooting with lights and I just changed this to white. Okay, so touch display. The reason I like to turn off the touch is that if I'm going to pass this off, I don't want people touching on this anymore because I'm handing off the camera to someone else. So I can turn that off easily. And I'll turn it back on. Moving on, peaking display. I like peaking on, okay? It's just my thing. And moving on. So the transition speed, I like to have here too because I like to make things go faster or slower. And same with shift sensitivity. It is finally done and it took me 20%. This thing didn't overheat or anything, but now your camera is ready. This is just a quick setup. It's not a full tutorial. So now this machine, which may have seemed like a bear to operate because of the lack of controls, lack of dials, lack of buttons, well, it's now a machine that is user-friendly, especially for people familiar with smartphones. This thing is fast, it is friendly, it is intuitive, and it gets the results fast. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoy the camera. See you in the next one. Take care.